Jesus was a rock star. He brought the...
Pray with me, would you say, Jesus, help me to be what you want me to be, do what you want me to do, because people without you go to hell.
Well, animals are a lot like people, Mrs. Simpson. Some of them act badly because they've had a hard life or have been mistreated. But, like people, some of them are just jerks. Stop that, Mr. Simpson.
Anybody here know a jerk? You know any jerks? Anybody here sitting by a jerk? Oh, yeah, you probably want to be careful with that, I guess. Yeah, don't point, because then you're the jerk. You know, that's kind of a little bit where we're going today. Yeah, no, there's not, you're pointing at yourself. Who here is a jerk? Some of you just own it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You just own it. Yeah, there's always going to be jerks, right? You name me off some people at your work that qualify in that jerk status. Some of you have dated a jerk, okay? Both guys and girls, that's happened before. If you are dating a jerk, you don't have to do that. You get to choose who you date, and so that's good. And so, so you've all got jerks in your lives, and to be honest with you, we're all jerks every now and again. But what I'm talking about today is there's the folks that they're just habitual jerks, okay? The person that is always a pain in the butt at your job to work with. The person, hopefully this isn't true for you, but maybe you've been in a small group sometime, someplace, and there was a jerk in your small group. Okay, anyways, there are a lot of jerks in our lives and people that we got to deal with. Good to see you guys. So today we're talking about a jerk. Okay, we're talking about a jerk, and it's not King David. By the way, that QR code up there, if you put your phone up to that will bring up the notes and the mind map today that I am going to be using. And so if there's ever anything that you think I'm lying about, you can have my notes and you can dig into that and figure that out. So that's that QR code right there. So we've been walking through King David's life, and what's really fun is when you walk through the scripture the way we've been walking through David's life, is you get to stop in on some Bible stories that your children's Bible skipped. You know what I mean? You get to stop in on some things that the scripture says that you normally don't talk about in church because it's not quite as theatrical, not quite as deep. And we're kind of in one of those stories right now that it's possible that you haven't heard a lot about this story in church because it doesn't actually paint David in a very pretty light. Okay, our hero in this story is about to let his emotions get the better of him. Okay, and so he gets really close to doing something and stupid. And anger is a paralyzing emotion. When anger takes control of you, it really, that time when you got mad. Now, hopefully it doesn't happen to you very often, but I'm relatively sure that we've all had experiences where we lost it. And we even use that expression, right? I lost it. I lost control. It's unpredictable. You ever lost it when you didn't know it was coming? Somebody came and they said something to you, and it just lit you up, man. And you lost it. And when you got up that morning, you had no idea that you were going to be lost it. Now, anger has a lot of faces. Some faces are, I'm feeling a bit perturbed. That's anger. Okay, so you got that feeling of being a bit perturbed, and just kind of a little, you have to, if I could do an English accent, I would have done that for you. But then I just embarrass myself when I do that. Okay, and then of course on the other end you got rage. When you lost it. Like things got thrown, things got broke, things were said. It's a very different thing. And these things both happen, the perturbed and the rage, but especially the rage. Where does your rage typically happen? Does it happen when you're by yourself at home? No. Your rage happens out in public where everybody gets to see. They get to see you go off and you say and do things and you throw those words out, and those words, they never come back again, do they? And everybody knows exactly what was in your heart, right? Because it was in your heart, otherwise it would have come out. Now how do we deal with this? Well, obviously self-control is the obvious answer. But in the situations that you're thinking about, when you said, Pastor, I lost it, okay? I lost it. It was insurmountably difficult to have that self-control, wasn't it? Like you didn't have a chance, right? Are you following me? Like you think of that situation where you lost it and you realize, I actually didn't have a chance. It happened. I went off, and I don't even know, how I could have done. Now, anger is a choice. You can choose to get angry, but it quickly becomes a habit. And maybe you know some angry people that and these are the people that say things like, well, I just say what's on my mind. I don't care what anybody thinks. That's code for, I hurt people around me without thinking about it first. That's what that's code for, by the way. But people say it as a badge of honor, Now, it is a badge of honor for you to be authentic. It is a badge of honor for you to handle things in an upfront way. It's not a badge of honor for you to rip into everybody around you no matter what. Now, anger, if you think about it, is a form of insanity, isn't it? Because you get into a place where you lose your mind for a moment. You are not in control, okay? You lose it. Sometimes it happens really quick. People like it when I share this story. Apparently it humanizes me pretty well. But this is a couple years ago now. Elizabeth was alive, so it was less than 10 years ago, but I think she was young. And Elizabeth was drinking a lot of chocolate milk in those days, and I was stressed and I was angry. And I think it was we were going to a wedding. That's what had me in such a bad mood. I had to go to a wedding. Anyway, maybe it was a funeral. Anyway, I'm going to this wedding, and I'm getting chocolate milk for my kids drink, and I'm kind of irritated, kind of upset, and I'm pouring the chocolate milk in, and I spill it on my white shirt. And now that's irritating, right? However, apparently there was more in my heart that day. Because when I spilled that on my shirt, your pastor is about to become very human right now, I cussed and threw the milk gallon jug. And I didn't just throw it a little bit, but I threw that 1 gallon jug across the room, and it hit the wall and exploded. And I was like, oh, so now my family wasn't up yet. And I'm like, wow, where did that come from, right? I mean, I knew right. I'm like, what the heck, Scott? You're losing your mind. You need therapy or something, right? And so then I'm cleaning. I cleaned it all up and stuff, and it was a while later. I mean, because when I say the milk exploded, I mean, there were droplets of stinking chocolate milk all over the place. It was days or weeks. I don't want to make up stuff, but a period of time later, Ingrid Lisa finds what is this all over the place? Oh, and it was chocolate milk that I'd missed. And of course, then I had to confess that I made the chocolate milk explode in the kitchen that morning. But we lose our mind. It's a form of temporary insanity. Well, that's why I like David is because in our story today, David is going to go nuts, okay? David is going to lose his mind. He's going to lose it. He's going to do things. Now going back to our story, to kind of fit this in here, I think it was when I study so many different things at once, I forget what I preached when. So forgive me for a minute, but where we are in the chronology of David's story is he has already spared Saul's life once. I think I preached on that last week, okay? I think we had spared Saul's life once. He cut the piece of his robe off, and so he's still out in the En-Gedi area, that area, and he's got his 600 men, and he's hanging out there. And how things worked at that time, that if you had an army or if you were a mercenary, because basically David is a band of mercenaries, he takes it upon himself to protect the workers of this landover. It's kind of almost like a feudal system. The peasants would work, but there was someone who owned the land, and people worked his land. And since David had all these men, and it was normal because Israel hadn't become a dominant force in the area yet, and so they would raid the Israelites, and so they raided this place. And so David is working for a landowner, basically. He's protecting the workers while they deal with the sheep, okay? So that's what's happening. And then in our story, David is going to decide to kill his boss. All right, and so now we're going to unfold this story in a little bit. David goes from being a protector to deciding to murder your boss. And so today, I should have named today, How to Kill Your Boss. That might be a good one, except that if Anton listened to it over there in the kids' church, he might not like that. I might not like that as much. But yeah, David is going to decide to kill his boss today, all right? And so this act plays out in a few scenes, just so you know. Saul is still king. He's out there, and I think he's chasing the Philistines right now. But it's during that period of time. David, however, he has 600 guerrilla fighters. He's been protecting these shepherds. He's working far away from his home. And because he's protecting these guys, there was no contract between them. He didn't go to Nabal and say, hey, Nabal, I'm going to protect your people. You pay me this much money. He didn't do that. He had the men, and so he just protected them. When the Philistines would come in, or when the Amalekites, I think there was one of them that when they would come in and raid, David's guys would say, hey, don't. And just David's presence there, of course, protected them. Kind of like we have a strong military program. You know, the idea is to be so strong that only really idiots would ever mess with us. And that's kind of, so even David's presence there helped protect those people. And it was customary to get a tip. Now, anybody ever wait tables? None of you waited tables. A couple of you, I waited tables. How do Canadians tip? Anybody know? They don't, right? They don't tip in Canada. It's not part of the culture. And maybe they learn to tip when they come down here for a while. But I had always heard that as a waiter. You just don't expect it when the Canadians come down. But it was customary for Nabal, how do you pronounce his name? People pronounce all kinds of different ways. Let's call him Nabal. Anyway, I'll call him Naval. Can I just call him Naval today? Yeah, let's call him Naval. Because he deserves to be a belly button. There's no written law, but it's kind of expected. David's been protecting these guys, and it was expected of Nabal to pay a tip to David's men for protecting the flocks, and today is payday. David is excited. He's like, I've been here. And the problem is, Nabal is a little stingy man. He's a little man, okay? He's the kind of guy that has to bluster. He's the kind of guy that has to be the biggest man, and he's always, he's flaunting his money around, and he's just that kind of guy, okay? Now, some important characters in our story today. Okay, first of all, we got Nabal, okay, or Nabal. 1 Samuel 25:2, it says that there was a wealthy man from Maon who owned property near the town of Carmel. He had 3,000 sheep, 1,000 goats, and it was sheep shearing time. Now, Nabal apparently means fool. Like, if you look up that word in your concordance, it means fool. And so much so that later in the conversation, I don't know if we'll cover it later, so we'll cover it now. When Abigail is talking to David, he says, yeah, my husband Nabal, and just so you know, his name even means fool. She says that to him, okay? So Nabal means fool, and actually, if you dig into it, this is the actual definition: foolish, stupid, lacking understanding, does no capacity, moral insolence, okay, impudent, disobedient to God, and there's some other references. And so, I have one question for Nabal. Why did your mom hate you? Okay, who names their kid Nabal, right? And I named him Nabal, but and so in verse 3, we hear that he's a harsh guy. He's evil in his dealings, and he's unfair. So it's not so anybody who knows this guy. It's no surprise that he's acting this way, okay? Because he's a combination. He's the worst kind of combination. Stupid, harsh, evil. I should have put one more on there because the other part of the conversation is that he's also powerful. He's the boss, okay? There are some stupid bosses out there, all right? And so I couldn't, how to deal with your stupid boss, not kill your stupid boss. Okay, that would work as well. Okay, that's how to do this. So he's a character number one. His name means I'm a moron, okay? Now, the other character we have in our story that we haven't met yet is Abigail, okay? Abigail. Now, this is quite the woman, this Abigail. His wife, Abigail, was hot, she was built, and she was smart. That's what the scripture says. Okay, no. She was sensible, beautiful woman, but Nabal was a descendant of Caleb, was crude and mean in all of his dealings. So this is the guy, and maybe you've seen a relationship like this. You might have seen it during worship today, where you just look at the relationship and you're like, that dude is outclassed by his woman. Have you ever seen those people? Okay, right? Like, how did he get her? Right? And he's not that good. Look, he must be rich. That's what we say, right? For her to be with him, he's got to have money. And that's exactly was the case in this place. He never would have gotten a woman like Abigail unless he had some, resources. So Abigail, in short, was like my wonderful wife. She was hot, she was smart, and she loved God. She was a godly woman that he did not deserve. And he's controlled by his emotions, backwards of the stereotype. He was mean, he was vengeful. He was controlled by his emotions. What was stereotypically in a relationship? You guys who are married, who would we assume is the emotional one in your relationship? Be your wife, right? But that wasn't the case here. It was, and actually, and just so you know, in our relationship, I am the woman. Okay, I am the one who gets moody and stuff, and not angrily. So the conflict begins. Okay, so here are characters. We've got stupid little man. We've got hot, beautiful, smart woman, and then the conflict becomes different. Now, husband and wife completely different from each other, but between employee and employer. So David comes. He actually sends some guys because he didn't want to be too intimidating. He sends a couple of guys to Nabal, and they say, "Hey, how you doing?" And there's a Bible verse, you can look in the notes, they talk about that, say, "Hey, how you doing? Peace." And they actually say, "Hey, shalom, 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 peace on you. It's good to see you. We're here. We took care of you. We're sure you heard good things about us. We're positive that they told you that everything was good. And we are here today for a tip." Uh-oh. Play.
Are you stupid or something?
Mama says stupid as stupid does.
Are you crazy? Or just plain stupid?
Stupid as stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
I guess.
Are you stupid or something?
Stupid as stupid does, sir.
So stupid is
Are you
as stupid
stupid or
does.
something?
And he, instead of dealing kindly with David's workers, he gets really angry. Oh, I should have put this in the notes. Did I put this in the notes? Maybe I did. I might. No, I can't get there. But he says, "Who is this? Who is this David?" Right? A lot of servants are running from their bosses these days. Talking about David leaving Saul, and so he just mocks him. Okay, and so David's about to go be crazy because his guys come back to him and they're like, "Hey, David, yeah, he said no. What did he say?" He said, "Well, yeah, he said, a lot of, he wasn't very kind to us. He said no and he meant it." And then David responds in a very controlled way. David, he's going to use wisdom, and he's going to get tact, and he's going to get on your swords. And then the 400 men leave. So David hears me say, "All right, everybody, get on your swords." They put on their swords and they get on and they ride out. And what are they going to do? And David is like, "Dude, I got the high ground. I protected those people, right? They didn't ask me for it, but I did it. And not all of their stuff. And here I am, and this dirty rat, he is an idiot. I'm going after him, and because." David had just been saying a lot of good it did to this fellow. We protect his flocks, his wilderness, and nothing he owned was lost or stolen. But now he's repaid me evil for good. He had the moral high ground. He was right. Nabal was wrong. And then he says this, "May God strike me and kill me if even one man in his household is alive tomorrow morning." So wisdom and tact, David, bless your heart. This is scorched earth, right? This is a scorched earth policy. He is just going in, and I'm killing everybody. I'm killing all of you. And plus, he's an Israelite. Let's back up just for a minute here. I think we're going to be talking about it here in a little bit, and we might have done it for deeper up. But King Achish, David is raiding people who are not Jews, and then telling King Achish that they are Jews. That's what he's kind of doing during the same period of time. But he has not killed any Jewish people. He is not raiding. And so this would have been a complete departure. David is looking to lose everything in this moment. Do you see that? David has had the moral high ground. He had the moral high ground when he ran away from Saul. He had the moral high ground when he cut Saul's robe. He had the moral high ground in everything that he has done. What do you think would happen when they heard back in Israel that he destroyed an entire Jewish city? You think he would have had the moral high ground then? Do you think there's any chance that they would have crowned him as king in Hebron a few chapters later if he would have gone and destroyed Nabal? No way. He's angry. He's about to lose everything. He's angry. He's about to lose everything. My dad had an expression. He dealt with it like killing an ant with an atomic bomb. That's what he's doing here. You ever dealt with So David had the moral high ground. David was right. This guy was an idiot. He had mistreated David. But David's about to lose the moral high ground. Have you ever been right and lost the moral high ground? Yeah, I've totally been right and lost the moral high ground. Problem is when you do that, you lose it and you don't even get to be right anymore. Now you're the wrong one. Okay, you just got to back up and apologize for what you did best you can, and then David, David, when you were in the wilderness, you played your harp and you sang to Jesus. David, you know what it's like to worship. God has been so good to you. You knew worship. You've been a man of integrity. The people around you did not have integrity, but David, you did. You handled it right. Jonathan had your back. It's so good, David. You've done such a good job. But now he's playing the justification game. And I know this is played out in your head. The justification is like, well, he deserves this. It's my duty to stand up to him. Okay? He's justifying himself. He's about justifying the sin that he knows he wants to commit. And justification, if you find yourself playing with things to figure out how you can do something wrong, you are in a dangerous place, my friend, because you're angry and you've gone insane. You're angry and you've gone. The most dangerous lies that we ever tell are the lies, of course, that we tell ourselves. And David hangs in the balance now between anger and murder. Now, who's the hero of this story? Yeah, it ain't King David, is it? No, the hero of the story is Abigail. So David is riding towards the city. I'm killing them all. And he is ticked. He's ticked. His like people working for him like, leave David alone. Today's a bad day. He's angry. He's riding towards them. And he's about to kill every man, woman, and child. And so a wise servant, he comes to Abigail, and in verse 17, I'm not going to read it, but in essence, he says, hey, your husband is a jerk. We all know what he's like. You're the only one who can do anything about it. They don't go to him. They don't try to slow him down. They don't even go to Nabal and say, hey, Nabal, David is riding here with 400 men. They don't even do that. Because this guy is dumb enough to try to fight David, okay? This guy, and they don't trust him. They know who the reasonable one is. They go at her, your husband's a jerk. You're the only one that can do anything about it. So she gets to work. She begins to gather up 200 loaves of bread, 100 clusters of raisins, 200 cakes. And here's something that I find kind of interesting in the scripture. She does not tell jerk face, okay? She doesn't even tell him why. Why did she do that? Because she was scared that he wouldn't let her go because he was an idiot. Okay? She's handling him. All right? I have a question for every husband in this place. Has your wife ever handled you? Yeah. Have you ever been handled by your wife? Yeah, I've been handled by my wife. It sounds something like this. Scott, thank you for picking your socks up from the floor. That just makes me feel so loved and appreciated. I'm like, you just read a book, woman. You're handling me. You are, I'll tell you this. I'll say this in front of all of you. There are times when I need handling. Okay, I don't handle every situation right, and a good wife is there to protect her husband, and that's what Abigail is doing. Isn't it? The idiot he is, she's protecting her husband. By the way, just a little contrast. You notice that David will marry another woman a few years later, Bathsheba, that she does not protect her husband. She sleeps with David, and David kills him. That's when she doesn't handle it as good as Abigail. But so wives, they sometimes handle you, and that's not a bad thing. Don't feel betrayed because your wife is trying to give you a dose of tact. So she literally saves Nabal's life. She protects him. She does not fight. And so she gets all of this bread, these raisins, all these things, and she runs out to David. And I unpacked this verse a little while ago in Deeper Rock, I think it was. I went through every line that she says. We're not going to do that today because it's kind of a different sermon, but she fell at his feet and said, I accept all the blame in this matter, my Lord. Please listen to what I have to say. By the way, I got to try to find that again and make it available to you because it was really good. We go through every line, and she handles David. She's handling Nabal by not telling him anything, and she plays David with wisdom and tact. Every word is intentional with this girl. And so take the blame when you can. That's what she's doing. Hey, I'm to blame. Blame me. That's what she does. I know Nabal is a wicked and ill-tempered man. Please don't pay any attention to him. He is a fool, just as his name suggests. Okay, I'm not sure I'd love it if my wife was handling me to that level. But Scott's a moron. He's going to screw this thing up. You just pity him. He's worth your pity, not being destroyed. He's a fool, just as his name suggests. But I never saw the men you sent. She's very subtly saying, had you come to me, we wouldn't be having this problem. It's a great woman. She protects her husband from himself. Thank you, Jesus, for a woman willing to protect you from yourself from time to time. And it goes both ways. But now, my Lord, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, since the Lord has kept you from murdering, I can't help myself. You notice how tactful she is? He hasn't made any commitment not to kill anybody yet. She's building him up, and see the Lord. The wisdom this woman uses is just fascinating. If the Lord has kept you from murdering and taking vengeance into your own hands, again, wisdom. She's preaching. She's just slipping it in there. What's happening? Let all your enemies and those who try to harm you be as cursed as Nabal is. Again, I'm not sure. I like to be Nabal in this story, But so David hasn't even spoken yet, and she has gently said, "Do you really want to do murder today?" She has, with wisdom and tact, said, "David, do you really want to lose the high ground with all of Israel? Is that really what you want to do?" And our hero is rescued. The Messiah coming down the line of David, no doubt, is rescued. What would history be like if Abigail had not handled David that day? I mean, it would have changed. She protects him from himself. And David responds, he says, "Thank God for your good sense. Bless you for keeping me from murder and from carrying out vengeance with my own hands." So when dealing with anger, number one, sometimes you're angry at other people, okay? In others. And now let's assume they deserve it. Did Nabal deserve anger? Yes. Does your idiot boss deserve anger? No, unless you're Anton down the hall. No. How do you deal with anger in others? Number one, don't do the tit for tat. What does the tit for tat looks like? Well, one day I walked up to somebody and I had done something stupid. I don't have time to tell you the whole story. I was wrong, but it was a little wrong. I missed a meeting that I was supposed to be at, and it didn't bother. I had no responsibilities, but I missed the meeting, and so I knew that I had offended somebody, so I had a letter of apology, and I bring it over to his desk, and I put it on his desk, and I said, this was in a ministry, by the way. Pastors can be petty and stupid, too. Anyway, me, but this guy was petty this time. I put it down on his desk. He looks up at me, and he says, I don't accept this. You're nothing but a liar. These are just words on a page, and he reams me out, just chews me out. And I was dumbfounded. I was like, holy cow, He's chewing my butt. He's bringing up stuff from 4 years ago, and now it'd be 15 years ago, because it was quite a while ago. He's chewing me out, and I fell into the tit-for-tat game because I was just dumbfounded. And so I started defending myself for stuff that happened 4 years ago. Well, that's tit-for-tat. They launch an attack, and you either defend yourself or you launch an attack back again. When anger is engaged, tit-for-tat doesn't work. I don't care if you're talking to your wife. I don't care if you're talking to your boss. I don't care if you're talking to a coworker. The moment the conversation becomes an argument, the more the conversation takes on an air of a contest, where in a debate where emotions are engaged, you're not going to win over hearts and minds at that moment anyway. Just get out of the conversation. Resist the tit for tat. Now, they'll try to pull you in because they want to do tit for tat, because that makes them feel powerful, makes them feel right. It's just not worth it. It doesn't work anyway. Your emotions are going to want to, though, because you're going to want to give them theirs. It just doesn't work. That's the only problem. So when your emotions engage and you feel the whoo moment, okay? When your emotions engage, shut your face. I want you to think, have this little phrase in your mind: shut your face. When you get angry, stop talking. Nothing good is about to happen. There's not one situation in my entire existence that I handled in such a way that I wouldn't have handled better angry. It just doesn't. There's a lot of situations that I could have handled them better, not angry. Okay? You want to really freak somebody out? Do what I did one day and say, this guy's working for me. I put this down, I'll spill my water. And this guy had lied to me, and I caught him, and I was so angry. I was angry. I said, I am too angry right now to talk about this. I'll talk to you Monday. It was Friday. Oh, you want to destroy somebody's weekend? I'll tell you what, man. But there's no chance of me having that conversation in a way that was going to be Christ-like, okay? I didn't have a prayer of having a Christ-like conversation at that moment, all right? And it freaked him out, but it was better than if we talked, right? So anyway, so when your emotions engage, shut your face. Stop talking. See it from their perspective. You don't have to agree with their perspective, but even if they are completely wrong, if you can understand their perspective, it'll help diffuse the emotion out of you. If you can understand some of the why. They can still be wrong. You're not excusing them. But if you can understand what brought them to that place, that can be a really healthy moment. When you're not angry, that's actually a very good way of dealing with the problem once you do deal with it. Help me understand, and then you fill in the blank. And truly try to understand. Don't do tit for tat, but that's a worthwhile conversation, to understand them. People feel loved when they feel understood. So you don't have to you don't have to agree, but you do have to understand. Then look for in others. Oh, I'm talking about in others. Look for the fear button. What do I mean by the fear button? A fear button is a phrase that I stole from something called the DNA of relationships, and so here's what the fear button is. It's the thing that brings the anger. It's where the emotion is coming from. For instance, you might be in your marriage. Your husband might have a fear button of feeling controlled. Okay, feeling controlled, and so if something happens where he feels out of control, it's a very typical thing for men. That's anger comes, and so you crawl in, and if you can find the spot where he feels out of control, you can begin to talk about that. And you can come back to a reasonable conversation. Or maybe, I've worked with people that they're having marriage issues, and you dig in a little bit, and you find out this actually has nothing to do with the partner. It has to do with what happened with an old boyfriend, or maybe there's abuse and it's coming out or whatever. So often the problem is not the problem in these conflicts. And that's why going the tit for tat doesn't work, because then we end up talking about stuff that isn't even the problem, right? And so You find their fear button, find the thing in them, and it's also very good for yourself, because if you get angry, ask yourself, why am I angry? Well, because they did that. No, that's not why I'm angry, though. This is making me angry. This isn't just something I got to deal with. This is making me emotional. Where's the emotion coming from? Well, it's because I feel stupid because he cheated me, and I feel like an idiot for believing him in the first place. That's why I was angry when that guy lied to me, right? It was because I was fooled. I was bamboozled. I put my trust in somebody, and it came back to bite me. The moment that when you're angry and you realize why you're angry, I'm angry because I feel like an idiot for putting my trust in this person. I feel I'm betrayed. I'm incompetent because I didn't see this coming. That's where the anger is coming from. So, finally, be wise. Fight quick conclusions and pray to get God's perspective. And in yourself, handle each conflict separately. Ask what do you want. I'll actually end with that. I'll come back to that in just a minute. So let me get to my last slide here, just because I've been having too much fun. You can't change a closed mind. All these things are there. You don't win hearts and minds in an argument. You only have bad things happen. But here's a little phrase I want to leave you with today. Ask the question, what do you want? You're in this situation and you're angry. Okay, I want this to change, but what do I want? Well, I want them to feel pain. Revenge is never a good reason to have a conversation. There's no Christ-like conversation that has the main goal of punishment. Now, that's your main goal most of the time when you're angry. Okay? You might try to convince yourself different, but when you're mad, you want to hurt that person because they hurt you. That's just how it is. What do you want? Well, I want them to not disrespect me in that way. I want them not to talk to me in that way. What do you want? Then you ask yourself, what's the best way to get what I want? Well, maybe I should pick up my socks in the bathroom, Or maybe I should talk to that person and say, when you say that, it makes me feel this way. And is there a way that we can do this, that we can both get what we want? And then the other person, a good thing you can do is you can look at somebody and say, look, I see that I've hurt you here. How can I help you? What do you want? Anytime you're dealing with conflict, that question, what do you want? Well, I want them to suffer. Well, that's not Christ-like, and we're not going there. I want them to change. Okay, do you have the power to bring that change? If the answer is no, quit the tit for tat. Right? And if their mind is closed, quit the tit for tat. Give it more time. And that was actually our last point that I skipped through. When you can't change somebody, and you've done all that you can in a reasonable way, shut your face, because nothing else you say is going to help. Arguing is not going to help. Nothing is going to help. And so you get out of God's way, and that's where this verse is. I waited patiently for the Lord to help me, and he turned to me and he heard my cry. When you run out of strength, when you run out of debate points, when you have spoken your case and now a mind is closed to you, just stop. That you're not going to solve the problem there anyway. And of course, what you do next depends on the situation. We're going to receive the offering in just a moment. Love you guys so much, and thank you for being here today. Week after next, we're going to have that, we'll call it a business meeting, should call it a vision meeting. I'm going to be sharing with you kind of vision for moving forward and things. But as you prepare, I'm going to pray in a minute. And as I do, I just encourage you to pray with me, and I'm just going to give Jesus my life. And the cry of my heart that I prayed at the beginning, Lord, I just want to make you smile. And I implore you to pray that with me today. That you would just not have any conditions and just throw it all down to Jesus today. And let him have his way. God, I thank you for the good things that you're doing in our church. I thank you for the wonderful, beautiful people that are here. And we just ask, God, that you would give us the honor and the privilege to see more people come to you. That we would get to love people in your name. Lord, that you would give us the wisdom to wait patiently, God, when we have run out of things to do. In Jesus' name, we love you, Lord. Amen.
Jesus was a rock star.